My name is Jason Salomi, and this is Perfection, an athlete's perspective.
For those who don't know people, this is Matt Cooper, GB fencer, fifth year dental student, only 22 years old.
Yeah, 22.
Yeah, I mean, I in researching for this episode, I genuinely had no idea how difficult fencing is. And I was looking at your event, the épée event particularly, and the absolute speed that you guys are moving at and the speed that weapon is moving at is just insane, man.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realise kind of what true fencing is at a high level. It's always very different to what people expect it to be. They always expect it to be very slow moving, very athletic. But yeah, at the top level, it's very intense.
It is, man. And if you don't mind me asking, how did you come across fencing? Did someone recommend it to you, or?
So my coach that I have still now started off at my school just doing some after-school clubs.
Okay.
And I pretty much tried every sport possible when I was younger, and just thought it sounded something a bit different. I thought I'd have a go, and then just took to it straight away, pretty much. And then after about a year or so doing it casually, I started to think, right, let's put some time into this, and started doing it a bit more full time, 2 nights a week, and now I'm here. So I've just progressed from there after school club.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously turned out pretty well for you. And was there ever a point, when you were fencing when you were younger, where you thought, oh, maybe this sport isn't for me, or did it just come naturally to you and you just kind of stuck with it?
Yeah, it's just been one of them things where I just started it and everything just kind of fit together. Before I was fencing, I actually swimming quite a lot.
Okay.
And I was always a decent swimmer, but no matter how much work I put in, I never could take it to that next level.
Yeah.
But then as soon as I started fencing, it just kind of all clicked together, and it just took off and just slowly progressed up to where I never expected to be honest. And now I'm senior GB squad. So.
Brilliant. And was the épée, was that more natural for you in comparison to the other events, or did you?
So I've never actually tried the other ones. It's just my coach does épée, so I've just always started straight from épée and done that from the beginning. So yeah, I've never actually tried the other weapons, but now I've kind of progressed through the sport. I didn't even realise there was other types of weapons when I first started.
Yeah.
But I've realised that épée is the kind of the one for me anyway, with my kind of personality type. So it just kind of all worked out really well.
And you said, your personality type kind of relates to your sport. How does that kind of link up?
Yeah, so the three different weapons, the styles are very different in terms of fencing. So épée that I do is a bit more kind of patience. The way it works is you can both hit each other at any point of the match, and you can hit each other at any point on the body with the tip of the sword.
Yeah.
So that makes it a bit more cagey than the other ones, because the other ones have kind of priority rules. So if someone attacks first, they then get priority, and you're working more off a priority-based situation. Whereas épées, you can hit from any point of the bout, anywhere on the body. So it makes it a bit more kind of patience and a waiting game. Than the other ones, and the other ones are a bit more explosive. So saber, I don't know if you looked into that one, but that's really explosive off the mark. Whereas épée usually starts a bit more cagey than saber, and then kind of ramps up throughout the fight.
So essentially, you sort of start off and you're basically waiting for the perfect moment to strike.
That's it, yeah. So you're just like feeling out your opponent to start with. Some matches go on for quite a long time with no hits. They've started to change the rules actually to make sure that there's not a long period of time where there's no fencing happening.
Yeah.
So there's been a rule change recently where it kind of forces fencers to kind of engage with each other instead of sitting back and waiting too much for that moment. Because if both fencers just decide to sit back, then it can end up that nothing happens. So they've changed the rules with a time period that if you're behind, it kind of negatively impacts the score for you. So when you're behind, you've got to kind of actively engage in the fight, which to start with, it was quite difficult to get your head around, and it's been a little bit difficult with the referees as well to get their head around.
Yeah.
But it just kind of forced the sport to be a bit more active. So I think it could be a positive thing in the end, the rule change.
Definitely. I mean, I play American football. you know, I can kind of relate to your sport a little bit. That's what kind of drew me to fencing. 'Cause I thought I've never really looked into fencing, and you know,
Mm.
you're such a good fencer, so I decided to do a bit of research. And when I was watching some épée bouts, there's some things that I'd like to talk with you about that can maybe kind of relate to my game because
Yeah, great. Yeah.
in my position when I'm covering someone, I'm following someone around the field, and I have to be pretty close to them. It is a little bit like yours. It's kind of like chess. I have to
Mm.
wait for them to move first for me to react. Uh,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
so with you, how do you kind of train like your reaction? Is it just always fencing specific, or is there stuff you do outside that kind of relates to that?
Yeah. So mostly fencing specific because fencing is one of them sports that I found the only thing to properly improve your fencing is to just fence. Like it's very hard sport to recreate the movements and the reactions through like kind of false pretenses.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the more time you fence, the better it is really than trying to set something up that kind of changes your or impacts your responses.
Yeah.
Some people do use them kind of. I don't know if you've seen them like light box things that you can like react to,
Oh
or
yeah,
like
yeah,
tap
yeah. I've seen
kind of
that.
things. Yeah,
Yeah.
quite a lot of people use them, but I actually personally haven't had a go with them, and I think the main thing you can do is just fence, and
Mm-hmm.
because you've got to see the timing of the kind of the blade coming towards you and how it's coming towards you and how your opponent's moving towards you that then initiates your reaction to what they're doing. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think you can get that from doing lights personally.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
but it is something I'll be worth maybe kind of looking into in the future. But at the moment, I personally think that fencing's the way forward to increase their reaction time. Do you do any kind of the light box training kind of stuff?
You know, the funniest thing is, so when I grew up, I was in the gym and stuff. We had it was this weird machine that like used to give us different lights,
Mm.
and you used to look into it, and you basically had to follow each color. So I don't know, the coach would say green, and you have to follow each of the green lights and stuff like that. So I've done kind of similar stuff like that before, but like you say, really, a lot of people I think kind of overcomplicate their sport
Mm.
sometimes. In that, I think the best way to train for your sport, mostly, you know, there's other stuff you can do obviously that really help, but it's just to play your sport. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and the more you do that, you'll often find that the better you are. But actually, speaking of training outside of sport a little bit, I'm guessing more from what I've seen and what I've been researching. You guys have a lot of, you know, it's a lot of balance work, you know. So how do you train your balance, and do you do any core work?
Yeah, so fencing's quite a difficult one to do strength and conditioning for, actually.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
Yeah, because most kind of personal trainers and that want to get you really strong and fit.
Hmm.
But with strength also comes weight, and sometimes weight isn't helpful when you're fencing because you need to be quite mobile as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I focus a lot on balance and mobility, and basically just spend a lot of time um, standing on one leg, as simple as it sounds.
Yeah, that's it. That's
What
it.
kind
Yeah.
of one leg balancing, making sure I can close my eyes and balance at the same time. And then
Right.
I also do quite a few kind of like balancing on one leg, rotations at the hip, keeping balanced. I've used a little balance board as well. I've been doing single leg squats on balance boards, um, things like that. So yeah, just kind of mixing it up. The lockdown over COVID caused me to get a bit experimental with the balance boards and everything. So if you look on my Instagram, I've got some videos of me playing about with them and
Oh yeah.
juggling and doing all weird things at the same time. So
Yeah, no, it looks
yeah.
good. There's some good stuff on there, man.
Cheers.
And I noticed as well, in your sport. I don't know. I mean, I saw a bit of strength and conditioning stuff on YouTube. There's a French guy doing it. I forgot his name. He's an Olympian, and he was doing some like unilateral work. So like I think he was doing like split squats and um, a lot of like single leg Romanian deadlifts. Is that stuff that you do?
Yeah, yeah. So I've definitely been working that in. I actually took the decision over lockdown to put a little bit of weight on, just because now I'm moving into the senior ranks.
Okay.
Those guys are usually all a bit kind of bigger and heavier set just because they're older than me.
Mm,
So I took the decision and the time out over lockdown when I had to kind of look into my nutrition
yeah.
and see about putting some weight on, and it's gone quite successfully actually. I'm feeling a lot more powerful. Now I've put a little bit of weight on. I went from about 12.3 to about 13 stone, and I'm quite happy with where I'm at the minute. So my plan is to just maintain there, and then work on the mobility in that side while I'm at this heavier weight, and see where that takes me when I get back to competitions. Because when you're kind of trying to physically beat these guys on the senior tour, it's quite difficult to outmuscle these big guys that have been doing it for so many years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm hoping that really helps me when I get back to competitions.
And is that something that you just decided to do yourself, or did you consult anyone before making that decision?
No, well, I've talked to my coach about it, but it was more of a personal decision on how I feel when I'm fencing.
Yeah.
And I just feel like sometimes I can get out-muscled when I'm like just moving up to the senior ranks. So
Yeah.
I think it's definitely maybe more powerful. I'm just hoping it doesn't kind of prevent that agile side of things coming forward, but I don't think it will do. I think it's only added to that, to be honest, because I haven't gone too much with it. So yeah, I think it'll really help me when I get back.
I think you'll be fine, man. And just kind of wondering as well, because in American football, because it's so tactical, we spend hours watching game film of our opponents, and how they move, and we have scouting reports. This guy is a good quarterback, or whatever. Is there?
Yep.
How do you prepare in terms of that going for fencing? Do you watch film or?
Yeah, so I personally watch a lot. There's a lot on YouTube of different competitions, and if you can kind of watch the tour throughout the year, most of the competitions are streamed live on YouTube. So
Yeah.
I've spent many hours watching a lot of the top guys. The only problem is with fencing, with it not being so kind of in the media, and there being so many participants in each competition. You've only ever really watched the top guys who get into like the last 64s, the second days.
Yeah.
So to get up to fencing them guys, you've got to beat quite a lot of people that you've never watched fence before.
Yeah.
So it can be quite difficult coming against people you've not met. But I kind of quite enjoy the challenge of not have watched someone before. It can sometimes be a barrier to you when you kind of come on against someone that you've watched quite a bit.
Yeah.
And you think they're going to do a certain thing and then they don't. And then sometimes it can put you off. But that's just another challenge of the sport that you've got to overcome. So
yeah, you kind of start to guess instead of react.
Yeah, definitely.
I definitely, I think a lot of athletes, listening to this probably relate to that. You watch too much game film and you're over prepared, so you start to guess. You watch too little, and there are tells, when about these certain things that you've missed because you just haven't seen it enough. So it's, I guess I don't know. It's kind of like a balance with watching your opponents and.
That's it. Yeah, yeah. I found the best thing is to watch as much as I can, and then kind of just take what I've watched with a pinch of salt, so I know what their kind of best moves are, their weaknesses, their strengths.
Yeah.
But then also just try and be in that moment when you're fencing. I think that's the key thing about fencing. I think it's very much a mental game. Fencing. It's very, very tactical. Like you say, that it's usually described as a kind of physical chess fencing. So yeah, I think that tactical mental side is one of the key aspects of it.
And because it's so, it can be so drawn out, especially your event. How do you stay focused? What is your mindset? Because I used to have a really difficult time when I was younger because of my position. Like I said, I'm following people around and I'm running with people and stuff. Before the ball is snapped in American football, when I was younger, especially, my mind used to just wander. And I used to play cricket as well. And when I used to field, and you're out there for 20, 50, whatever overs, your mind just wanders. How do you make sure that you just stay focused during your match?
Yeah, so the mental side is something I've been having to really work on the past kind of few years. It's mainly for me being nerves and kind of overthinking when I'm there.
Yeah.
So for me, I've actually had to kind of go the other way and try and chill myself out a bit while I'm at competitions and not really think about it too much and just kind of be there. Over the lockdown, I've really got into kind of using mindfulness and kind of trying to control that focus on that one task at hand of what you're doing. So that's one of my main key goals for when I get back to competitions, is to really use that mindfulness that I've been doing over the lockdown period and apply it to just focusing in that kind of just the right here, right now kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And so now that lockdown is, well, I guess eased, are you back in the gym? Are you back in training? What's going on with you right now?
Yeah, so I'm back to the gym now, and we can do a little bit of sparring now. The rules have stated that we can spar, but with kind of a bit more extra protection on.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not allowed to. There's a move called a flesh. I don't know how much into fencing you looked, but
No,
it's kind of a running attack.
yeah, I look deep into it, man. It's flipping. It's brilliant.
Yeah. So we're not allowed to flesh each other at a minute, just to kind of try and keep our distance. So
Yeah.
it's mainly wrist work, footwork. But yeah, I've been hitting the gym pretty hard since we were allowed back.
Mm-hmm.
Nearly every day of the week at the minute.
Yeah.
Like I said, putting that a little bit more weight on, getting that strength up for when I get back. I'm doing mostly strength-based work at the minute. My program at the minute is mainly strength-based, and then I'm going to change it to a bit more plyos when we get back to more competitions, because we're yet to have a confirmed competition date for when we get back. So once we get that, I'll change back to more kind of plyometric work.
Yeah. And what is your, so talk me through your average day, because I know you're at uni as well. So what's your average day like?
Yeah, so my uni's just starting to ramp up again and get pretty full on. A lot of the time we're usually 9 to 5 at uni, but at the minute we're just in most mornings. So usually it's 9 o'clock start at uni, finish about 12 on clinic. I've been treating patients all morning, and then usually gym in the afternoon, have a nice session, get back, have a nice rest, and then get off to fencing training at night time. That includes kind of sparring and lessons, and then that's usually pretty much all I ever do. Get to bed early, and start it all over again.
and that's pretty much every day, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, actually, at the minute, at the weekends, I'm working a weekend job to fund some of my competitions. So I'm actually doing Saturday, Sunday, working 9 to 5, and then throughout the week, uni and training.
That is a grind.
Pretty full on at the minute. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I don't miss being at uni and doing that kind of thing, 9 to 5, in all the time, and then training after. It's just, I think it's easier when you graduated. You know, it does get easier, and hopefully, you know, with how good you are, you know, fencing can become, you know, your full time job. But it's definitely easier anyway after you've left uni.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed as well in fencing, I mean, I don't understand, like, I don't actually physically understand how you guys keep your arm up for that long. I was watching a few matches, a few GB matches, and I was thinking to myself, surely their shoulders are in absolute bits, because I play American football. It's such an explosive sport, so I don't have to. I mean, you can train, you know, isometric holds and stuff like that. You know, keeping yourself in a certain position for time, but it's not essential. I can only imagine for you guys it must be essential. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the main thing has come from just fencing over the years, just kind of building up that endurance and that strength just through doing the actual actions. But yeah, like you say, isometric holds definitely part of the list of S&C that I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a funny mix between endurance, keeping that arm up, and also having that explosive power for when you need it, and that strength in all different directions for all the different parries that you have to take as well. So yeah, it just kind of slowly builds up over the years of just going through the motions while you're fencing.
Yeah, definitely. And so when you're competing for GB, you know, it must be quite, I guess, nerve-wracking, because there is a crowd there, and you know there are people that you know that are watching stuff. How do you deal with the nerves? You know, do you have a tactic, or do you just go out there?
Yeah, so as I said earlier, the nerves have kind of been my biggest struggle to get past over the last few years. I found that if I just throw myself into the match and really just focus on trying to defeat that opponent in front of me, I usually just forget about the crowd around me. Like I've been in a few finals, like the British Championships finals. When I think back to it, like there's a massive grandstand full of people,
Yeah.
and I just didn't really acknowledge that they were there at all. You just kind of block it out your mind and focus on the task at hand.
Yeah.
Just focus on that person that stood in front of you, and that's all you can do really. So in some aspects, I really enjoy the act of having a bit of a crowd. It quite excites me sometimes, as long as it doesn't overwhelm me.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the most hand, when I have a crowd, I usually kind of live up to it and quite like it.
That's brilliant, man.
But like you say, yeah, sometimes the nerves can overcome you, but usually I can get it back on track with some breathing, just refocusing on what I'm doing, and usually just going back to the basics as well. Sometimes if I get overwhelmed, I'm like, oh God, what am I doing? What are they doing?
Mm-hmm.
But if I just think, right, set my own guard nice, what am I doing? What's the tactic? What am I focusing on? And just trying to focus on that, either one action or on that one thing that I'm trying to get my opponent to do. That usually sets me back straight.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it, man. Just kind of remaining focused and kind of letting everything come to you because you've done it for so long anyway. So,
Yeah.
it's natural to you.
That's another thing, my own self-confidence that my technique and everything will be there when I need it is something that I've had to really work on.
Yeah.
So something over the last few years that I've really been building on is just believing in myself that everything I need is going to be there when I need it. And it's really took me to another level, that self-confidence.
Like that's the thing. That's something that I think everyone can kind of relate to. Just knowing that if you've worked on something, it's gonna be there when you need it. If you've worked the right way and you train the right way, put whatever you do in your body, and you've done the preparation, that when the time comes, it's gonna be there. And I remember one of my coaches was telling me that, I think something along the lines of, if you're too nervous, it's a bad thing, and if you're not nervous enough, it's a good thing. Like you should be sort of in the middle where you should be sort of nervously, kind of excited for competition, but also you should be excited for the fact that you've prepared for this and it's going to go well because you prepared very well.
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely have a kind of an optimum kind of state in the middle of, like you say, not being too overexcited or being too underexcited. And I've definitely been both ways in competitions as well. Like when you do a lot of competitions in a row, you get there and you're like feeling a bit kind of not quite there, not quite activated enough. But I'm starting to realise my own kind of tells and what I need to do to either spike that up to the middle or kind of bring it down if I'm overexcited.
Yeah.
But yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yes, it's all about kind of knowing yourself, and kind of speaking of knowing yourself and your abilities as well. Obviously, moving up to seniors is a massive step. Well, how are you dealing with that mentally? Because I think physically, you've done a great job putting on the size.
Yeah. So I think that the confidence has been the main thing for me. If you've not got the confidence in your own abilities when you start fencing, you're just getting absolutely crushed by these guys that are full of confidence. They come on the piece like they own it, and they just take control of you completely. So I think the best thing you can do is just really believe in yourself and just really go for it when you're on the piece. And that's something I'm really trying to ingrain in myself to do. So like you say, I've worked on that physical side, put the hours in with my lessons, and I just need to go on with a lot more self-confidence than I have been doing in the past, and at juniors especially. But I've done the full junior circuit around the world twice now, so
brilliant!
It's kind of it gives you that experience of, so you know what to expect, and you just kind of got to take it as the same kind of thing. Like the guys have all been through what you've been through in the juniors, and you just got to see it as another opponent in front of you, and not that these big guys in seniors. It's just someone else in front of you that you're fencing.
And when it comes to you're fencing someone, he's been more experienced than you, and let's say, for example, that power dynamic is kind of shifted and they're kind of on top of you. How do you kind of shift that back in your favor? Yeah,
so it is one of the most difficult things in fencing is to kind of take the reins in a way, and you can control your opponent through either footwork or the blade work, and those top senior guys really know how to take control of what you're doing and kind of take all the momentum away from you.
Yeah.
But I found the best thing I can do is, like I said before, throw myself into it. And I actually quite enjoy the challenge of having that someone that's maybe a bit well known, one of the top guys. I
Yeah.
usually kind of step my performance up when I'm taking on the challenge of someone like that. So I actually sometimes prefer having that person that thinks that they're gonna kind of dominate me, but then actually I'm kind of that like the underdog, and I quite like that situation to be in. So
Yeah, it's kind of like, you kind of get a shot at the king kind of thing, and
yeah.
any athlete likes to compete against someone better than them. Otherwise, what's the point? And
Yeah.
if you beat someone better than you, then you're the best, aren't you?
Yeah.
And I wanted to know, does it hurt when the blades hit you?
I get asked that so many
Yeah,
times about fencing. Yeah,
does
does it hurt?
it hurt?
Not generally. No, like you get the very odd kind of bruise here and there if the blades hit you in an awkward angle, but
Yeah.
on the whole, it doesn't really hurt. It's just you can sometimes get the odd kind of pressure sore or flick or something that does hurt. But yeah, on the whole, it's very safe. Doesn't hurt overly. It's definitely not at all anywhere near being like shot by a paintball or anything like that. So yeah, it's not too bad.
So let's talk about recovery. What does your recovery look like? Is it different for like an average training session in comparison to a competition, or is it all kind of the same thing?
Yeah, pretty much quite similar. I I really believe in foam rolling. I think that is
Mm.
something that's just taken me to another level of kind of injury prevention.
Yeah.
I do quite a lot of stretching and mobility.
Mhm.
Um, I've also recently connected with, I don't know if you've heard of Neurocore.
No,
Um,
no, I haven't.
the, they're a brand that do kind of microcurrent stimulation.
Oh wow.
So it's like a little device that you pop on your muscles, and it kind of makes your muscles slowly contract, and it kind of flushes out anything that's in there.
Oh,
I've
okay.
actually found that really helpful for after, if I've done like a long run or had a really intense sparring session, your legs are feeling quite kind of like, you get that like lactic acid feeling.
Oh,
I
yeah.
found it's quite helpful for that for the next morning.
Oh, brilliant.
So
Okay.
yeah, kind of a mixture of everything.
Mhm. And is that, are you working your recovery every single day, or is it just after training sessions?
Yeah, so foam rolling every day.
Yeah.
I've made that a bit of a staple.
Mhm.
I just can feel the benefits if I've done it or not done it.
Yeah.
Mobility, stretching, I usually do a few times a week.
Mhm.
On top of that, and then the Neurocore I usually use kind of when I've had a heavy session. So,
Yeah.
what
On,
what is it? What is it for you in terms of recovery? What do you focus on?
oh, for me, oh my goodness. All right. So I okay. So for example, today I was doing some plyos. So after my plyos, I'll do like some isometric holds. I basically stay in my stance. I do 30 seconds each, and I remember I was speaking to my trainer about it, and he was like, when you do them, you'll feel them. I was like, nah, no way, it's 30 seconds. And for whatever reason, whenever you do holds, 30 seconds feels like
Oh, they
5 minutes.
burn so bad. Yeah.
Honestly, for some reason, I actually asked him, like, does it ever get easier? He's like, maybe, I don't know. And he's like, you have to find out later on. So I'll do some isometric holds, and then I make sure I always walk home from the gym. Yeah,
Mm.
yesterday I was so tempted to get my girlfriend to give me a lift home, but I thought, you know what, I have to walk this. So
Yeah.
I'll just get home, and I'll do some more stretches. I'll stretch my groin out. I've got a pretty weak groin, from having a bad posture from spending my whole childhood playing Xbox, but I'm trying to get over that.
Yep.
And yeah, I stretch my groin, glutes, and hamstrings, because American football is such an explosive sport, and if you ask most sprinters, most sprinters always get glute injuries and hamstring injuries. So I really focus on those, and then I do some upper body mobility as well. Make sure I'm nice and loose going into the next day, so I can do the same thing again, like you said. Just keep grinding, so we get better.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds pretty similar. Yeah, spend a lot of time on my hips. I found that's one of the key things for me.
Mm-hmm.
My hips get quite tight from being in that kind of the on guard stance that you're standing for most of the time when you're fencing is quite kind of an awkward position for something that if someone did it like out of the blue that had never fenced, it's really like strain on all of your your glutes and your
Yeah.
quads and everything. So yeah, I spend a lot of time kind of getting them hips loosened out. I find if I don't do that for a few days, they get really tight in, and usually I actually sometimes get a bit of a groin pull if I don't keep doing that hip mobility.
Yeah.
So yeah, something that I definitely focus on as well.
Yeah, it's crazy how the human body works. I had no idea that the reason I had groin issues is because my glutes just weren't.
Yeah,
And I remember seeing my physio and I was talking to him and I was like, it doesn't make sense. Like I squat this much and I deadlift this much. How is this happening? He's like, well, basically, what a lot of people go through, and this is just everyone in because we sit down so much, our glutes just basically think, oh, well, I'm not needed now, so I just kind of go to sleep, and they just basically never wake up. So I've pretty much made it a point since lockdown to really activate my glutes every single morning, and the differences have been amazing. You know, my posture and just walking around, I feel faster when I run as well. It's ridiculous how the human body works, man.
I found something quite similar. I quite a few years back now, I had quite bad lower back pain.
Yeah.
It got that bad where I thought I was never going to be able to fence again.
Mm.
And I had some physio, and it didn't take that long that they were like, activate your glutes, pull your core in, and after a few months, I just felt better than I ever have done. And like you say, you just start feeling a lot more powerful when your glutes are activated, and it
Yeah,
definitely feel a difference when you've not done it.
you do, and it's so weird how that isn't just more commonly known. Like most people don't realize, the reason why they have lower back pain isn't because they're getting old or, you know, it's because your glutes are basically not working, which is pulling your back forward through your hips, and it's mental how it all works, especially how it pertains to athletes. You're with exosuit as well, man. What do you use your exosuit top for? How does it benefit you in your training and your preparation?
Yeah, so I've been using it for training nearly every sparring session now.
Mm.
I found it really useful for lessons mainly. I can feel it just that kind of shoulder awareness of where your arm is,
Yeah, yeah.
because the technique's really kind of best word to use is probably quite sensitive. So
Hmm.
it's all about what your kind of wrist position, your shoulder position. You don't want to be throwing your shoulder into anything. You want to be doing it all from the leg. So you can really feel if you've started to throw your shoulder into a kind of a move that you shouldn't have, because you can feel that kind of proprioception from the suit kind of holding that shoulder.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found it really really helpful for sparring, and I'm really looking forward to getting to competitions and trying it out there and seeing how it affects you. And I also feel really powerful in it as well. I feel like it's helped me with if I do shoulder press with it on, I
Yeah.
feel a lot more powerful with it.
It's so weird how it works, man. I mean, um, I've actually, I've got a few PBs with some shoulder press and, some bench stuff. And I genuinely, I wouldn't like endorse something I didn't believe in. But when I tried it out, I was like, this is actually pretty good, to be honest with you. I can see why it's getting so much backing. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but,
The one thing I was worried about it with was if it was going to be too warm under all my gear, because
Mhm.
we have a plaster on underneath and we have a top jacket over the top. But I found it no different to any usual like undertops from any of the top brands.
Yeah,
So yeah, really positive in that aspect as well.
yeah, man. I mean, the whole point of me kind of starting this podcast is I like talking to people from different sports and different disciplines about how they prepare and approach their game, and kind of trying to apply it to my game, and then trying to take me to the next level. And some of the stuff you've spoken about, man, particularly the vision and the balance stuff, and with your core, I'm definitely gonna look to. Well, I don't want to because I know it's gonna hurt, but I think I'm gonna look to implement that in my exercises, man. But Matt, man, I really appreciate you talking to me today, man. It means a lot.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for having me on. It's been great.
All right, man. I'll speak to you soon.